Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a concerted effort to not let people know this and not make the connection. You look at mainstream media in the United States, when they talk about black and brown communities, they talk about police violence or they talk about like, inner city violence. They'll talk about poverty and crime, things like that. But they'll ignore the fact that vastly more Americans of color are dying from chronic disease than by gun violence. And it's just like if it's about really talking about the tragedy that's happening in low income communities in particular, this would be the main focus. But you look at who funds the mainstream media. It's like, well, where are they getting their advertising dollars? And it's like, and there's you just see this collusion between so many different industries and so many different outlets working together. And so they don't want this information out. They definitely don't want it put together in a platform the way we've done. And then tying in hip hop, which hip hop influences everybody, right? Like it influences the country bumpkin in Texas, and as much as it influences the kid in the Bronx. And so it's this massive platform, it's this massive genre that we can utilize, and so many of the hip hop artists in the film are plant based or very health conscious, and so they want to talk about this issue and they utilize their own platforms to talk about it. So I think we've put together something that's really compelling, really unique that they really don't want people to see. And it's like, and man, they do not want people to know this information.
We the hurdles that we've gone through just to get to this point have been, it's actually so crazy that it's funny. It's like from people trying to bankrupt the film to animal ag organizations trying to basically warn their members about our film, to platforms literally telling us to our face like, hey, if this wasn't a social justice film, we could see paying you more for it. Like just flat out, and other platforms wanting to cut out 30 minutes of the film because they directly told us to our face that while this is the most impactful documentary they've ever seen, and we fact checked it and we know it's true, we can't allow everything on there because it goes directly after our advertisers. So yeah,
runs deep.
They just didn't know that we had another plan.
Thinking about the folks you got involved, it's an incredible lineup of people. It'd be good to understand like what that process was like. And did you? I imagine you obviously you didn't. Everyone was involved in the film, sort of willingly, etc. But was there kind of a bit of trepidation on their part? In some cases, in terms of getting involved.
Let's just say this: blackmail works very well when you need favors.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
It's a joke.
For the record.
No, but for the record. But no, I've been very fortunate in this space to have worked and at least talked to and collaborated with a lot of the artists. So it helped out to be able to just, hey, remember the time we were talking about veganism, and maybe just been a DM and Instagram. It's like, hey, I'm working on this amazing project. I'd love to have you involved. And, Keegan's work before this really helped out as well. Like, I mean, I knew quite a few of the people, but saying, hey, this would be like the follow up to What the Health. People were like, oh, well, okay, let's talk, and they knew it wasn't like I don't know my cursing limit on here, but they knew it wasn't a crap. And they knew it wasn't a bullshit film, so they were more than gung-ho to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely, Keegan. From your experience of making some of the previous films you've made, what was the level of resistance for this one? You mentioned John mentioned some of the hurdles that you'd had to overcome to get this film off the ground. Were they much greater than perhaps you'd experienced in previous films that you'd made?
Yeah, there was unique challenges with making this film. The caliber of celebrity that we have in the film is definitely tough just scheduling alone because these people have incredibly busy schedules. They all have managers and gatekeepers, and working through their channels can be really challenging. And Cowspiracy and What the Health really didn't have like a celebrity cast in the way They're Trying to Kill Us does. But once you get people in a room, their willingness to talk about these issues and talk about their personal experiences was phenomenal. I mean, it wasn't like having to pull information out of people. People just willingly shared incredibly personal and impactful stories. And that's, I think, one of the things that audiences, I believe, will resonate the most with this film, is that some of their favorite artists are talking about their own childhood, their own experience, their own relationship to food, their own relationship to poverty or racism. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people across all races.
And I think across all countries as well, because from my limited understanding, and certainly it's advanced since understanding a little bit about your film and looking into the issues in the UK. This is not a unique problem to the US, maybe exacerbated by paid healthcare, but as opposed to the NHS and so on in the UK, but not a dissimilar issue. I think this is endemic across these countries.
Definitely true.
It'd be good to just understand a little bit about how you got the film off the ground in terms of funding. Because I understand this was quite a unique methodology to getting this one funded compared to perhaps other projects you've been involved in.
Yeah, it did. We did go a different route with this film, and it's totally not funded by any sort of broadcaster or major platform or streaming like that. We did a crowdfunding campaign with the film, and that was really successful, and that helped us with the final cost of the film. But we knew that we wanted to do this in a unique way, and part of that is the release. And from the very beginning, John and I talked about how we wanted to make sure that this film gave back to the people, gave back to the people in the film, gave back to the community. And so we knew from the beginning we wanted to give away a percentage of the profits of the film back to charitable organizations. And in fact, the release of the film, we're giving the first $1 million that the film raises to charity, and it's to feed people and to literally lift up those who need the most.
Yeah. That was a big factor for us when we first started the project. And then, not only that, we also took it a step further to where ourselves, we're still donating proceeds from what we make from the film, even after the $1 million, to make sure that we help as much as possible.
I mean, clearly, it's going to have a huge, just that fact alone about what you're giving back, it's going to have a huge kind of cultural impact. But what are your hopes for the film itself in terms of its reach? What kind of conversations are you hoping that it starts, and even kind of what's the call to action, if you like, that you're hoping it inspires?
I would say I hope the conversations start over dinner. I want people to, especially with the horror day season coming about, where everybody's sitting over dead animals, eating, ingesting this. I'm hoping one family member seeing the film is like, you know what, we shouldn't be doing this, and then shares the film with the family. That's the big thing, because my biggest goal for the film since day one has been empowerment. I want people to feel empowered once they watch the film, and to understand that they do have quite a bit of control, even though there are some outlying factors that definitely are battling against us. At the end of the day, we control a lot of that. They just don't want us to believe that we control a lot of it.
Yeah, and I'm 100% what John said. I want people to get inspired, to get involved in whatever way they can, and whatever way that is meaningful for them. Some people feel really passionate about political change, and that things can change on a policy level. That's awesome. They should put their energy in that. Some people feel that it has to be just grassroots, and so maybe that's getting, junk food out of public schools. Maybe that's making sure that your local corner store, carries fruits and vegetables. Maybe that's creating a farmers market in your community. Whatever it is, getting people inspired and empowered that change is possible.
How did we touched upon it briefly about schedules and so on with the number of contributors to the film, but how's the pandemic impacted things?
In a weird way, it kind of helped us, because when we were working on schedules, we were doing pretty good. We had we downsized to just me, Keegan and I. At first we had a team of 5. We were traveling. That only lasted 2 trips. And we're like, you know what? We don't need all this. And I think that actually had a positive impact on the actual interviews because they felt more comfortable with just us two in the room. It wasn't like this big, Broadway spectacle that we were doing at first. But when it comes to the actual pandemic, I would say it kind of gave us a chance to kind of catch up. We were able to edit the film to a certain point and see the gaps that we were missing, or something that was missing, or something that just could be added. It wasn't necessarily missing, but we could see that. And then it also helped out because with that, so many people had more, I guess, screen time. Our buzz became more, it became stronger. When people start hearing about, we talk about police brutality, we talk about the health, we talk about viruses that are born through animal agriculture. So we were already talking about this, and then when the breeze caught it, it just carried it for us, and then I think that really just spiraled into more people wanting to know more about the film.
Thinking about it's been almost 5 years, I think, since you embarked upon this project. Looking back, where do you think the kind of vegan community has moved in terms of its ability to receive this film and amplify it further? Do you think we've developed to probably a more intersectional space, if you like, within the vegan community over the last few years, or is that just my social media bubble reading of things?
I'll go. I think it's gotten better. It could definitely become better, but it's gotten better than it was in 5 years ago. I know, because I know for me personally, I know when I first got into veganism, I was like, if it's not done this way, it's horrible. You're not really a vegan and this and that. Like I had that whole aspect too. And it's like, as you grow, you see that everybody has their own journey and everybody learns, as they go. I think sometimes people want new, I don't even want to say members because it's not a group like that, but people that are just people, even though some people act like that, like they act like, if you don't have your membership card, there's a gold card, a platinum card, depending. But I think that, sometimes people want everybody to know everything about everything when they're coming into it. And like some people are like, oh, you know what? I do want to get rid of the cruelty, that's in my life. So they go into veganism, but they don't know everything about it. They're just taking the first steps. And I think sometimes we're too critical and we just want everybody to be the best fucking vegan ever from the first time they touch a piece of kale. It's like, it's not like that. You grow and you learn as you continue the journey, but it's definitely gotten better.
Yeah. I think that the movement in general has grown astronomically in the last 5 years. Films like The Game Changers have helped tremendously in pushing this message forward and into a different demographic, and like the more sports focused, macho, like alpha male sort of community. And that's helped. And then, like the uprising of, the previous summers with, Black Lives Matter movement really taking off in the United States and around the world in a major way. People are waking up to social injustice. White Americans, let's say, are waking up to social injustice in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Because Americans of color are already fully awake and aware of what's going on. But you saw a lot of white people having their eyes open, and a lot of those white people are also happen to be vegan, and so they're starting to make the connection. And so I think the timing of this film is, audiences are primed for it. They're ready to hear this, and people are fired up and rightfully angry about the social inequities that exist, particularly in the United States. And this film just shows that it's deeper than they ever even imagined.
Yeah, 100%. Like you say, I think many people in many communities are completely aware of some of these issues, and it's catch up for the I think for the sort of white vegan community, if you like. And I sometimes worry when I look at social media that the world of veganism is portrayed as, yoga and kale, and nothing wrong with yoga or kale. They're both very great things, but not necessarily inclusive of the entire spectrum of viewpoints and opinions. And I think,
Right.
more power to you for pushing this forward.